Namaste, and welcome to our viewers from India who requested an analysis of the bank pension updation. Today, we are diving into the recent calls for extending the income tax audit deadline in India, all due to glitches in the ITR portal and enhanced reporting requirements. I'm Anil Agarwal, joined as ever by Sonia Patros.
Today, we're analyzing something that's been keeping a lot of traders and tax professionals in India awake at night. Calls for extending the income tax audit deadline in India, all due to glitches in the ITR portal and enhanced reporting requirements. Seems like one mess after another, Anil?
Yeah, absolutely, Sonia. It all kicked off when the Nagpur Chamber of Commerce announced recently that they're asking India's tax board to give everyone a bit of breathing room, extend the audit deadline to November 30th, 2025. When you look at what professionals are facing this year, it's easy to see why.
It's not just one single thing, Anil. The late release of those ITR forms, 5, 6, 7, came so staggered. For context, those are the ones for firms, LLPs, trusts, that sort of thing. And they only got released in August. Normally, you'd have 3 or 4 months for all the compliance and audit work. And this time, that window's been sliced down to weeks. Absolute nightmare.
Yeah, and if you're a firm or company trying to get financial statements in order, good luck with that. It's not just a matter of ticking boxes, is it? There's that whole choreography, reconciling data across GST filings, TDS, SFT, and juggling the statutory audits and any surprises from utility updates.
Right. Then, just as you think you're getting on top of things, a new schema or patch drops and suddenly you have to redo or revalidate the work you already did. I mean, imagine that sort of thing. I'd be on the verge of throwing my laptop out the window.
Exactly. And it really reminded me of when I helped a small business back in Jaipur, convince them to upgrade their tax software, which, they only agreed to after some serious moaning. But anyway, the supplier kept pushing new updates at the last minute, right before the tax deadline.
Sure, I recall that debacle. The poor owner and her accountant were absolutely frantic, double-checking everything, worried something would break or they'd miss a field. I looked at what these Indian professionals are dealing with right now and thought that's the same stress multiplied by 10, only their deadlines are even tighter and the changes so much more complex and regulatory.
That's a vivid analogy. Yeah, it's not just the tech. There's the whole shortened compliance window, which frankly just increases the risk for mistakes. If you're under pressure, with forms dropping late and then getting patched right at the end, well, you're more likely to misreport, make an error, or miss something subtle in all the new reporting requirements. The number of errors and forced revisions must be through the roof right now.
And that matters because it's not just about ticking a box for CBDT in this case, old UK habits. These are legal filings, so an error means risk of penalties, follow-up queries, even court cases down the line. The Nagpur chambers were basically saying, give people time, otherwise you're almost inviting accidental non-compliance.
Yeah, and as if that wasn't enough, now enter the tech gremlins. The ITR e-filing portal's been, flaky. A bit of a disaster this year, hasn't it? You've got people facing upload failures, pages timing out, error messages that tell you absolutely nothing useful, and then, just as you've worked it out, the portal gets another schema update. So you start over.
I mean, the system's definitely improved compared to what it was a few years ago, but what a time for it to stutter. Especially with all sorts of taxpayers, from small business owners to those with complex incomes, relying on it.
I read some cases where differences between a taxpayer's IIS and TIS data on the portal literally made it impossible to reconcile in time. Sometimes, people couldn't even download the data. They'd just stare at that loading spinner and hope.
It's honestly insane. And for lots of these returns, if you've got multiple sources, foreign assets, capital gains, business income, whatever, you can't just fudge it. You have to cross-check often manually to make sure there aren't discrepancies. It's a total shipwreck.
And Sonia, I remember a friend living in Mumbai telling me she'd had to re-enter pages and pages of data again because the portal crashed and didn't save. Makes you age 5 years in one filing season, doesn't it?
It really does. I actually had a taste of that once when I lived in Britain. If you remember a few years back with the UK's own HMRC system, there was this unexpected overnight outage right at the end of January. Everyone was rushing to get things in as the end of January deadline loomed, and I nearly missed the deadline myself.
I remember the event because it was the year I moved to Mumbai from London, where I used to live. The panic was real. Multiply that across millions during India's peak seasons, and it's total chaos, especially when each failed upload costs even more precious time. That constant background anxiety, it's not just inconvenient, it's exhausting.
Yeah, and it's stressful too. Professionals are reporting burnout, late nights, weekends gone, and still seeing errors pop up they can't control. Some are saying it's making it hard to trust their own compliance process, which just isn't good for the ethos of voluntary compliance. You can almost feel the cumulative toll on both the individuals and the wider culture of tax compliance.
Exactly. And when discrepancies in government data, like mismatches between AIS and TIS for the same taxpayer, are out of your hands, that's a different level of anxiety. No matter how good your process, you're always waiting for some unseen glitch to set you back or even get you into trouble later through no fault of your own.
And then let's zoom out even further the calendar crunch because it's not just income tax. July through October basically becomes a marathon for Indian tax professionals. There's GST filings, company law submissions to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, sector reports, renewal applications for the charitable sector. The list just keeps on growing.
Don't forget, this year the ICAI, that's the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, has rolled out a revised financial statement format for non-corporate entities. That alone is a major shift. They've moved to a vertical layout rather than the old T-form, which takes time to learn and implement, especially for small firms without huge teams. All these regulatory changes compressed into the same crowded quarter. It's, honestly, pressure cooker might be an understatement.
Yeah. And pulling from our own experience back in the UK, when there are big changes, government reforms, digital rollouts, the authorities sometimes stagger deadlines or grant extensions. It's not perfect, but it's an acknowledgement that practical realities matter. Maybe more jurisdictions should build that flexibility in, especially in periods of major transition, so that compliance isn't just technically possible but realistically achievable.
Exactly. There's a balance, right? Too much extension and the whole process loses structure. But if you push people too hard, especially during overlapping compliance seasons and new technical mandates, you wind up with burnout, errors, and lots of unnecessary litigation. I think what the Nagpur Chamber is arguing for is just a fair shot at compliance, not a loophole but a safety valve while things settle down.
And ultimately, these sorts of changes don't just affect accountants and professionals, they ripple down to businesses, charities, and eventually consumers. Get the transition right, everyone moves forward. Rush it, and you risk undermining trust or pushing people out of the system entirely. On top of that, you cause a crisis of confidence in a compliance culture that took years to build.
That's a solid point, Sonia. I suppose there's plenty more to unpack as these reforms unfold, and we'll keep watching for updates, whether the extension's granted or not, and how the broader compliance landscape evolves. Appreciate the chat as always. I suggest we return in the near future to close the loop, once the authorities make their go or no-go decision on an extension. Should we do that, Sonia?
Oh, sure, Anil. Let's circle back when that decision drops. And a quick reminder asking you to subscribe so you can be automatically notified when we next revisit India's bank pension updation. If today's episode sparked questions or you've been personally affected, please let us know via your comments. We'll dig into more current finance news in the next episode. Cheers, everyone, and thank you for watching. Bye.